here. We're on. I can see some people jumping on already. Guys, please say hello as you jump in and let us know where you're watching from, because I'm over here in Australia and Dana's over there in the US. So we're kind of across the seas, which is exciting. And yeah, please say hi. Please also, because we're going to be talking about ADHD and reducing ADHD symptoms naturally, if you know someone who would benefit from hearing Dana speak and all her knowledge and wisdom about nutrition and supporting ADHD kids and things like that, I would love you to tag them. Would love you to tag those parents, because they may be able to catch some of this live. And if not, it's going to be up on YouTube very soon as well. So anyway, hi, Dana, how are you?
Hi, Stephanie. I am good, thank you. And yes, even though I am in the US, I am Australian. So I do have an Australian accent. And so, hello, everyone. I'm excited to be here.
We are super excited to have you. Oh, I can see someone in the back.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. He just tried to pop up and, be known. He wanted to join in. So.
Yeah, he's just making himself known. Oh, that's exactly. So cute. Do people, when they hear, when you speak to them or they hear your stuff online, do they go, where's your accent from? Or do they get it straight away?
Oh, they don't get it straight away. I mean, especially in America, they think they'll say either UK or Australia. And I'll always say, what do you think? And they're like, UK. And I'm like, no. And then others just have absolutely no idea. But we've been in the US now for 8.5 years. And so most of the people that follow me know that I'm in America, but I have to kind of always say, I'm like, oh, it's sunny Seattle here, or it's cloudy Seattle, actually, because Seattle's always cloudy. So yeah.
Yeah. And do your boys have a mix? No, they would have
dead set American accent, not an ounce of Australian whatsoever. None whatsoever. My 13.5-year-old, he was born in Australia, but we left Australia when he was 1.5 because we lived in Singapore for 5 years before we moved here. My youngest was born in Singapore, but even though they've been with us for life, they just have got American accents, not 1 ounce of Australian. They might say some Australian words, like I can tell you it's every day, even though my friends have known me since we've been here, I'll always say something, they'll look at me like, what did you just say? Like boot. The boot is the trunk. And they're like, the boot? Like the boot on your shoe? Like, and I'm like, no, the car, when you put things in it. Yeah, there's so many words that we actually don't realize are really just to Australia. They're not anywhere else in the world.
I didn't know about that one. I knew, I know things like the petrol station, the gas station, and things like that, but I didn't know about the boot. I thought that was normal.
And holidays, when we say, oh, we're going on holidays, and they're like, oh, what do you mean? And I'm like, we're going away traveling to a destination. They're like, oh, a vacation. And I'm like, well, what's a holiday then? And they're like, well, like Christmas is a holiday, or a special holiday, not going away on vacation.
You know what? Thank you for clearing that up, because I've been speaking to. So we met everyone. I met Dana really on the Chaos to Connection Parenting Conference, which was back in May. And I run that with Lara Dawn, who's in Canada. And she was always talking about, oh, I'm on vacation, or we're going on vacation. And I was like, I think she's talking about going on holiday. Yes, and now you've cleared it up. And so, and it makes sense, because all the American movies that we watch about Christmas time, the one with Cameron Diaz, and they talk about, being home for the holidays, or going away for
being home for the holidays. Exactly.
Christmas.
Yes. So there you go. And there's many more like that. But I'm sure the listeners today didn't come here to listen to us talk about the differences between Australian vocabulary and American.
Okay. And also I want to introduce everyone to you, because if they don't already know your amazing work, I'm going to read a little bit about what you do. Obviously, you're from the ADHD Thrive Institute. So guys, I mean, after you watch the interview, please jump off and go and follow Dana's work. She's on all the platforms, really. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Oh my gosh, everything, Pinterest, LinkedIn. So you'll be able to find lots of her work, and I'll put all those links in the Facebook Live and then YouTube as we jump off. But let me tell you a little bit about Dana. So she's a board certified holistic health and nutrition practitioner. She's a 2 times international best-selling author, woo, and the CEO and founder of ADHD Thrive Institute. And she's a mother of a child with ADHD. And so she knows firsthand, I think, the struggles that come with parenting a neurodivergent child, and the freedom that is possible once we as parents learn how to reduce those ADHD symptoms, because they can be, how stressful, how challenging. My children do not have ADHD. My husband does. And so we navigate that all the time. But I can only imagine there's a lot of parents I work with who have neurodivergent children, and it is really, really challenging, right? So so you have been featured in Forbes and Authority magazine, and on Medium, on Thrive Global, various other sites and online media. And she's been a guest at multiple parent and ADHD summits and podcasts. And your podcast is The Soaring Child. I forgot to mention.
Yes.
So that's a wonderful place to
you were a guest on.
Yes. It's a great place to have Dana's knowledge in your ears, and be able to listen to that. And so her mission is obviously all about helping families to reduce ADHD symptoms naturally, so that the kids with ADHD can thrive at home, at school, and just in life generally. So if this ticks your box, then you keep watching, because you're going to have some real golden nuggets, I think, from Dana. And I'm just so excited. I'm so grateful, because I know how busy you are, to come and talk to us.
For having me. I love that I'm here, and I appreciate so much you inviting me to talk to your community.
So please, as I said, guys, if you're watching along on the Facebook Live, please let us know. I'd love to know, do you have a child with ADHD? Put something down in the comments. I'm looking down because I can see my live stream here, and I know a lot of you are jumping on and saying hello and things like that. So that is awesome. We've got some from the US, some from Perth as well, Brisbane. And yes, you will be able to watch later, Belle. Sorry, I saw some comments about that. So what I wanted to ask you first is, how did you tell us a little bit about why you started to work in the holistic health and nutrition industry. Sort of give us that, so we know kind of where.
Look, as you mentioned, I do have a son with ADHD, and interestingly, I was so far removed from this nutrition space. I think if you asked any of my friends from high school who would be the least likely to end up in nutrition and natural health, everyone would say me. So it was very much about, like everything moderation sort of thing. I was actually an accountant in a past life. And, I'd sort of planned to continue in that field if my concerns over my son's health hadn't grown as much as they did. And, he had the most mammoth meltdowns, and that got worse and worse as he started to get older. He had so much energy, like way more than any other child his age. And my gut told me that there was something that was going on there. And at first, school didn't sort of say anything. They're just like, he's a boy, don't worry, he's a boy. But the teachers did start noticing differences as he got older. And he was diagnosed at the age of 4 with ADHD, and he was immediately put on medication.
So did you find that the teachers, the educators at, I guess, preschool or daycare were a little, they were, kind of reassuring in terms of it's fine and it's natural, it's normal and not to worry?
Yes. So it was completely not what I was expecting. I thought, how could he be like this at home? And the teachers are saying that, oh, no, he's just a boy. Don't worry. Everything's fine. But my gut was telling me that there was something going on. And then eventually it all sort of caught up. And that's when we did go to the doctor, and we had a special neuroevaluation, and he was diagnosed at 4, which is quite young. So it's quite young to be diagnosed that young. And we were given prescription medication. And I was really relieved. I was relieved with the diagnosis. It wasn't that I was a terrible mom or that it was my fault. And that medication, I was thinking to myself that we were finally going to have that pill that was going to fix our family. Really, like that's what it was. And so if anyone's out there considering medication, or you are on your child's on medication, don't feel guilty, because we do what we've got to do, and we do it with the information that we know at that point in time. For us, I sort of felt like we were finally getting the help we needed. But things at first were good, but then the side effects from the medication became prevalent. They increased his dose. They added on a second medication to count.
He was 4 years old.
He was 4. Yep, he was 4. Sorry, my dog is just going. Sorry, I'm going to shut the door on him if he. No. We're live, just like. Exactly. And he was 4. I'm going to shut the door. Just give me 1 second. Sorry.
No, go for it. 4, and to be on a couple of.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so then they added a second medication, and then he started to have some more side effects. They added a third medication. By this time he was 5, and so he was on 3 very strong medication. And we went. What were the changes being on those 3 medications? Did you think, well, at least he's, I don't know, calm or not buzzing around, or were you like, oh, he's different? Like, what did you notice? Look, at first things were good. He was sort of a bit more calmer. He wasn't having as many tantrums. But then they said when they increased the dose, all of a sudden the tantrums came back with a vengeance in the afternoon. Everything was getting built up inside of him all day long, and then just exploding once the medication wore out. So that's when they added in a second dose in the evening. Then he wasn't able to sleep. So they added in a sleeping medication. Then he was losing weight. So they were bringing in some medication to boost that up. Then he started to experience terrible anxiety, and they wanted to add on an SSRI, which is an anti-anxiety medication. And that was the point where I said to myself, hold on, this kid is 5. And the doctor wants him on 4 strong medication. And I knew that there, had to be a better way. I remember this one time in Costco where, and apologies if you can hear my dog barking in the background, he wanted a snack before we'd paid for it. And I said, no, we have to wait. And this resulted in the most mammoth tantrum that I've ever experienced. Just picture 2 glass pasta sauce jars smashed all over the floor, him sprawled, kicking and screaming in the middle of it. And I look around and all I see is people sort of diverting their gaze to, avoid the embarrassment. I overheard a pregnant lady talking to her friend, I'm never going to let my child do that. And I lost it and I burst out crying. And, if I'm being completely honest, I was thinking to myself, why me? Why does my life have to be this way? And so, that's what led me to this journey. And that sent me back to school, did my holistic health degree, multiple specific certifications in this particular area, and really learned that ADHD symptoms can be reduced naturally. And there are things that we can do. Medication's not the only way. Today, my son, he's 13 and a half. He is thriving. He hasn't been on meds for years. He just finished off the school year in the US with straight A's. But for me, that's not important. The most important thing is he's happy. My family is happy, and we've now got sort of that peace and calm in our house that we always wanted.
Oh my gosh. And like I was going to ask, but you answered it, how that shift happens, and what he's like now, his behavior, and is he happy and things like that, and your family. And you nailed it. We're happy and we get on, like you guys are connected, and he's doing well, he's thriving. So no wonder you called your organization the ADHD Thrive Institute, because you can thrive even having those challenges, the brain wiring differences of ADHD. That's like mind-blowing.
Yeah, it is. And once I learned all of this, I really couldn't keep the information to myself. I didn't want anyone else to have to go through sort of all those struggles my family went through. It doesn't need to happen. And I just wish that this was, this was main practice. Why do they hand that prescription over as the starting point? Why can't they start with this process? Because it doesn't need to be this hard for people.
Yeah. What's your opinion with why do some medical professionals tend to go down that route quickly, as happened with you?
Yeah, look, there's a couple of reasons. One of those is most medical professionals only have to do an hour of nutrition training in their whole degree. So they just don't have the knowledge or the skills to sort of know anything else. They're trained to prescribe meds, to put a diagnosis on someone, and to give something to alleviate the symptoms. And that's what meds are. It's literally a Band-Aid to alleviate the symptoms. So that's one aspect. But also, especially here in the US, it's not quite the same in Australia. I think less kids are straight away given meds compared to the US. But in the US, the health industry is privatized. It's not public, and it's driven by the insurance companies and the pharmaceutical companies. So pharmaceutical companies, they don't want people to get better. They want people on medication. And so it's this vicious cycle. They actually spend 3 times more on marketing than they do on research.
No.
They market to the doctors to say this is what you should be prescribing, and they also fund medical school textbooks. So, it's that, again, is a whole story for another day. I'm not one of those conspiracy theorists, and there is the balance. There's a time and place for medication. Don't get me wrong, I'm not totally against it, but to put a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old or even a 10-year-old on 3 strong medicine is not okay.
I just think their body and their brain is still so developing that we're interfering with the anyway. So you do talk a lot about the gut-brain connection.
Yes.
What exactly is this? I'm fixing my water bottle because it's so freezing here. What? It's on my lap. Tell us a bit about the gut-brain connection, and how does it relate to ADHD?
Yeah, look, definitely. And I think that, again, this is not something that's talked about. I don't know why, this is not sort of the first port of call for most people when kids are diagnosed. And I just want to start off with some statistics. This is for America, but I'm sure it's very similar statistics for Australia or anywhere else around the world that people are watching. But it's estimated that 54% of American children have been diagnosed with a chronic illness, and that was in 2018. But that figure was only 15% a couple of years before that. Okay. So looking at that increase, it's kind of shocking, 15% to 54%. And, 1 in 2 have anxiety, asthma, type 2 diabetes, epilepsy, cystic fibrosis, heart problems, allergic conditions, learning disabilities, hyperactivity. 1 in 5 have allergies. 1 in 6 have developmental delays. And they've just revised the autism one, and it's now 1 in 32 have autism. And so we really need to think to ourselves, why is this rise occurring so rapidly? And the answer for me is simple, and it all begins in the gut. And if you think about back in the day, there wasn't a lot of antibiotics around. I can tell you, when I was a child, I didn't have antibiotics at all for much of the time as I was growing up. But as we moved away to Singapore with my son, I think he was put on like 4 or 5 rounds of antibiotics in such a short period of time. And you have to need to understand that 80% of the body's entire immune system is within the gut walls, along with billions of nerve cells. Sorry, my son just walked home and let my dog in the thing while I'm on a video. So just 1 second.
He's so cute. You can't help but laugh. I love. Oh my goodness, it's totally fine. Oh, but that 80% is mine. Can you just repeat that, because that kind of blew my mind?
Yeah, so 80% of the body's entire immune system is within the gut wall, along with billions of nerve cells and an extensive amount of beneficial gut bacteria. So, everything related to our child's health or even our health is quite literally connected to everything that goes on in the gut.
So no wonder we should be looking, and I think medical professionals, as you said, should be looking at what's happening with the gut, what foods are we eating, what are we putting in there that is driving our output, our behavior.
Exactly. But I think also it's like the number of antibiotics that kids are going on these days, which, I've got so many families that come to me and saying, oh, everyone's healthy, everyone's, fit. But when I press forward and actually ask, have they been on antibiotics? Have they ever suffered with constipation or diarrhea? They actually don't realize that constipation, it's not healthy or normal. Okay, it might be very common, but it's a byproduct of an unhealthy gut. And then I'd actually like to do a survey to see how many of the families I talk to have been on antibiotics, because I can tell you it's probably a very large percentage.
You know what? I know there's a number of you guys watching along now on the live feed on Facebook. Please put down, have your kids been on antibiotics? Just a simple yes or no, because we'll see. I would love to get a few comments of yes, they have, or no, never, or whatever. Just a simple yes, no. Put that in, because I think that is so fascinating. And I remember, I think it must have been my son. I feel like he's been on it once, maybe twice. And it was years ago. And I remember someone, like a friend, had said, oh, make sure you give him, the
probiotics
or probiotics afterwards. And I was like, really? Why? What is that? Like, the doctor did not tell me, when you finish this course, to go on something that is going to rejuvenate the gut flora. Like, I didn't know. And they didn't tell me. And I was like, really? Like, should you do that? She's like, yeah.
She's so right, because what happens is antibiotics work by killing the bacteria or preventing it from growing, which makes sense. But most antibiotics can't tell the difference between the good and the bad bacteria. So that means that they can wreak havoc on the gut bacteria. And many people actually suffer lasting changes in the gut flora as a result of taking antibiotics. Okay. And that's just the start of it. So let's link it to the brain, because I think that was your sort of original question. Now, what the gut-brain connection means, in essence, is that our brains are deeply connected to our gut. So when they're not functioning well, our brains won't be able to function as well. 90 to 95% of our body's serotonin and 50% of our body's dopamine is produced in the gut. And what these are, they're our sort of happy, feel-good neurotransmitters that help manage emotion. They balance our mood. They help our cognitive function. And if there's any families out there listening today that have kids with ADHD, they'll probably say, yes, emotional dysregulation is a really common symptom of ADHD, but many parents don't realize that emotional dysregulation actually starts in the gut, where the serotonin and the dopamine are made. So it's not about the emotions themselves, but the fact that the correct amount of these vital neurotransmitters are not being made in the first place. So we really want to work to improve the gut so we can improve those emotional dysregulation problems.
Oh my God, this is such a game changer. And I feel like I should be taking notes. I remember when we did our interview for the parenting conference, I was taking notes and I was like, Dana said this, and just such powerful knowledge for us as parents, because now that we know this, we can start to make some changes with our child's diet and what we're eating, what we're putting in our bodies as well. And lots of people have said, yes, our kids have been on, and talking about, yes, my son has chronic constipation, or my child is currently it
is common, but it's definitely not normal. And I think one of the biggest things with the gut-brain connection for me is that the brain has many areas involved in gut function, but one of the main areas is the frontal lobe. And the frontal lobe is involved in things like attention and focus, executive function, planning, organizing, problem solving. All of these areas are affected by ADHD. And again, because the frontal lobe is in the brain, people don't realize that it's not just the brain that needs care. It's in reality also the gut that's causing the problem. I kind of like to think of it like this, and this is a good analogy. Have you ever felt sort of butterflies in your stomach because you were nervous about something? Yeah. Maybe it was like a test or the first date. Yeah, they're perfect examples of the gut-brain connection. Our bodies sort of are perceiving whatever we're nervous about as a stressful situations, and then our brain triggers that raw emotion in the gut, resulting in butterflies or nausea. And so that's the brain talking to the gut, but the reverse is also true. So our guts are also talking to the brain through this highway.
So it's two bi-directional, right? Our brain will talk to our gut, but our gut talks to our brain as well.
Yeah. Have you ever heard people say that your gut is your second brain?
Yes, I have. And I was going to ask you about that as well.
Yes. Yeah. So that's exactly why.
Oh, wow. So what, for the parents who are watching along, what are some things, we can talk, I'd love to talk about changing diet. What does that even look like? And where do we start and all that kind of thing? And some other, what are the necessary steps? What, for the parents who are watching, who are going, this is ticking every single box, and I want to know, like, what can I do and how can I help? What can you share?
Look, there are, I like to think of our kids as making a pie. In Australia, we don't bake pies, but we bake meat pies. We don't bake, apple pies or cranberry pies, but it could be a meat pie. It could be an apple pie, whatever you want to make it. But I like to think of our kids I like to use these analogies. I think I've used 4 or 5 already.
They're so good.
And, there are many ingredients that go into making a good pie. It doesn't have to be the most amazing pie. It just needs to be a good pie that we're happy with and, we can put out into the world for people to enjoy. But what's the main component of a pie? It's the pie crust, isn't it? Like, you don't have a pie without the pie crust. For me, the pie crust is our diet. The diet is the foundation of our health. When you're building a house, if that house doesn't have a solid foundation, it's not going to be very strong, and our bodies are the same. Our guts are the same. It needs that healthy diet. So we want to start reducing inflammation in the body that reduces inflammation in the gut, and we start with diet. So we want to focus on really feeding our kids those whole, nutritious, fresh fruits, veggies, grass-fed, animal protein, wild-caught seafood, healthy fats to feed the brain, but then also reduce the inflammatory foods or take out the inflammatory foods. And these are things like gluten and dairy. I know you're probably all going, oh my God, what? Gluten, dairy in everything. I know, don't get overwhelmed. You really only need to do one small step at a time to keep you moving forward. So, and also things, especially for ADHD, is like artificial flavors and artificial colors can really exacerbate ADHD symptoms. So we really look to bake that good pie. I've done loads of trainings on diet. If you want to go to my YouTube channel, which is ADHD Thrive Institute, you'll be able to find that in there so you can learn more about that. And then we bring in sort of some other components. The next thing is obviously the filling, the apples for the apple pie or the meat for the meat pie. So we really want to, at that point, look at each individual body to see what is going on inside that body that's contributing to the breakdown in the gut. So we do something called functional lab testing. So we do stool testing. Yes, we have to collect a little bit of stool and we put it in a little container, send it off on our way to see, are there parasites? Are there bacterial overgrowth? What's been the cause of those antibiotics that everyone's saying, yes, my kid was on? What has that created in there? Is the good bacteria ample? Is there yeast overgrowth? Lots of different things. We want to look at neurotransmitters. So how is our serotonin? How is our dopamine? There are so many different things that we can investigate. So we want to make sure that individual body is actually, we're targeting things inside that. And then we also bring in some other components, detox, lifestyle, meditation, breathing for the brain. That's really important. So there are a number of different ingredients that make that good pie.
Yeah, wow, there's so much in there. And if, as you said, gluten and dairy and things like that, if people are like, oh my God, that's what my child eats, is it helpful if we can't remove those completely, but just to start reducing the amount and have more fresh fruit, vegetables? Does that help?
Yeah, look, any change and improvement to the diet is going to help. That being said, when you've got a kid with ADHD and you really want to reduce symptoms, middle term, you do want to remove them 100%. Now, gluten in particular, it creates a breakdown in the gut in just about everyone because of the way that it's processed these days. The amount of glyphosate, which is like pesticides that's in gluten and wheat, GMOs and things like that can the way that it's processed is not the way that it used to be. So it does cause gut problems in most people. But for some people, it's just short term. For others, it's long term. I also do genetic testing, and we can actually see if your genes predispose you to non-celiac gluten sensitivity. And so if you know that, you shouldn't be eating gluten. Your genes are telling you not to eat gluten. So if you want gluten to stop reacting in the body, it does need to be taken out 100%. But you don't need to do everything on day one. And that's a mistake I made. So, which I do not teach because
getting everything out of the pantry is everything in the bin.
Seriously, I took out gluten, dairy, soy. He had 40 food sensitivities, so I took them all out on day one. Let's just say it resulted in many panic attacks on the floor in my bedroom. I do not teach that to the families that I work with. We do want to take small, slow steps to keep you moving forward, to make it your new normal, because really, when it becomes your new normal, it's not hard anymore.
Yeah, wow. So I want to ask something. I remember someone had posted the other day, someone in Let's Raise Emotionally Intelligent Kids had said, can you ask about fish oil and omega-3 and things like that? I know you mentioned it, which made me think, oh, I forgot to ask.
Yes.
What's your advice around that?
Look, there are some really beneficial supplements that can help kids with ADHD. I do want to say, though, if your body's riddled with inflammation or you're still pounding your body with inflammatory foods, don't waste your money on supplements, because it's not going to be the be all and end all to reducing ADHD symptoms. So if, a Facebook ad targets you and says, this supplement is going to stop those ADHD symptoms, they're lying. They're not lying, but there's, it really, at the end of the day, you can't supplement your way out of a body riddled with inflammation. Yeah. You can't supplement your way out of a poor diet. So it has to be these different ingredients that are going to help you to get there. That being said, there are some really good supplements that I love for children with ADHD because they've been studied and they've been shown to be the most effective for most children. One of those is a good quality fish oil for the balance between omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. Now, there are studies that show that it can support memory. It can reduce hyperactivity, clear thinking, behavioral disorders, and organizational skills. And that's because omega-3s are, you need a good balance between omega-3 and omega-6, but the Western diet favors so much more omega-6. So you've got so much omega-6s in your body and not enough omega-3s to balance it. And it really is needed, that balance, for the good brain function. So bringing in an omega-3 fatty acid like a fish oil is really, really beneficial to help balance those out.
Wow. Oh, okay. Awesome answer. Thank you. And I want to, because I know we're coming right to the end. We could talk for a while, but
my gosh, I'm sorry. I've probably been talking a little bit too much.
No, it's incredible. I have a couple of very quick questions. One was from Stephanie. She said, do you think probiotics help? And the other one from Shannon, how do we access this sort of testing here in Australia? Does it get sent to America? The great question.
Yeah, so good question. Two good questions. A good quality probiotic is, one of those other supplements that I recommend for kids with ADHD because of the gut-brain connection. We want to optimize that as much as possible. Again, you need to be sure that, I just don't want you to waste your money on supplements if you're not doing this multi-prong approach, because you could just end up with a lot of expensive poop, meaning that it's just going to go out the other end. And it's not going to benefit you. But definitely probiotics, but not everyone is created equal. A lot of strains don't actually survive digestion. So you might do a gut test and you might see, okay, well, where we don't have a lot of this particular strain. So they put that strain in, and then you do another gut test and it's all in range. That is because you are continually taking that supplement. It's going to always be there because it's coming in, it's going out. It's coming in, it's going out. Soon as you stop taking it, it's going to get low again. So I actually like to use spore-forming probiotics. It's kind of like at springtime, you reseed your garden or your grass. You put the seeds over it, and then the grass and the ecosystem grow what it needs to. This is what you could, yeah. So I like to use pore forming probiotics for that particular reason. So yes, definitely can help. Lab testing, I actually work with clients in Australia as well. We send the labs from here, send it over to Australia. You send it back to the US. You send your poop in the mail over to us. But you can find a naturopath in Australia. A lot of them, though, don't specialize in ADHD. And when you're looking, that's all I look at. I've worked with over 1,000 families. And so I see the patterns between a lot of them. And a lot of naturopaths, they don't do sort of that comprehensive approach. They might say, okay, well, let's do this test. Then this is low, let's give that. It's not just about one marker being out of range. It's about looking for patterns, because one marker, yeah, it might be out of range, but there's a reason why that marker's out of range. And we target the reason rather than just that one marker being out of range. So really make sure that you look for someone that specializes in ADHD and does a lot of these tests to make sure that that they know what they're doing, and you're not just given a bunch of supplements for not the right reasons.
Yeah, because you want to get to the root of it. 100%.
Exactly. Yeah.
So tell us a bit about, for everyone watching along, Dana's given a beautiful ADHD kid-friendly breakfast recipe, kind of freebie. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I remember back in the day, our mornings were chaotic. The best thing that you can do is feed your kid as soon as they wake up, before they get dressed, before they have to process all of these different functions to actually get out the door. That's because a lot of kids actually suffer from low blood sugar when they wake up, because they haven't been eating all day long and all night long. And so we really need to get that blood sugar regulated. If you look up, sorry, again, my dog barking, and can you hear it?
It's very quiet. I think Zoom is really good at like background noise.
Okay, good to know. Maybe I need earplugs so I get. You want to give breakfast as soon as possible, and so bringing in some good quality breakfast. I'm giving a number of recipes, smoothies that will really help balance that blood sugar, and getting a good mix of protein, carbohydrates, vitamin, minerals in breakfast to really feed the body, feed the brain, to send them off on their way to school. Best thing that you can be doing. And I know that, yes, there's a lot of advertisements that say, yes, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. It is 1,000% correct, especially for kids with ADHD. So that's the best thing you can be doing. So that's why I'm sharing this free recipe guide.
Oh, so much goodness. I am so grateful for all that you have shared. And I know there's so many people watching along, and they are just sending you so much love and so much gratitude because you've just shared so openly. So thank you so much.
Thank you. No, thank you so much. And I'm sorry if I couldn't get more into it. Sometimes I go on these tangents and I need to reel myself in sometimes.
No, that's what I usually do. Tell me then, where is the best? I know we're going to put all the links in afterwards. You guys can reach Dana, but where is the best? Is it the podcast or?
Oh, anything. Look, everyone likes to consume information in different ways, and that's why we have to put it out on all platforms. So if you're a Facebook person, you can find us on Facebook. If you're an Instagram person, we're on Instagram. You could buy my book on Amazon, Thriving with ADHD. I don't know if you can see it. Yes. It's a guide to naturally reducing ADHD symptoms in your child. The podcast Soaring Child, and also on our website, ADHDthriveinstitute.com.
Easy. Okay, so no excuses not to not to now find Dana and her work, and then get in contact, because as she was mentioning, she supports families and works with parents and everything. So such needed work. I'm so grateful, and just a huge thanks on behalf of everyone for coming
And
on.
right back at you, Stephanie. Thanks so much for having me, and everything that you're doing as well is so needed. And appreciate you having me on tonight, or today, early in the morning for Australians, tonight for Americans.
You're welcome. Okay, yes, it has been. Michelle said it's been amazing. It really has. So thank you, and we'll let you guys go. Stay in touch for the next conversation in another week or two, and have a beautiful rest of your day or night. Bye. Bye.